everybody, I'm Annette from Lismore Library and welcome to the third session of Little Bang Discovery Club. Now today's session is all about experimenting, and before we go any further, just a reminder, your big people are your lab assistants, the little people are the scientists. So big people, you're there to help, but please don't take over. Let the kids decide how things are going to run. Okay, experiments. Experiments are all about testing things. So we might have a question about how things are going to happen, and we do an experiment to test to see how it will actually happen. Experiments are things like, you might have experimented with testing some fruit. Maybe you wanted to try some fruit. There might have been a platter of fruit out and you wanted to try the different types of fruit. That's a type of experiment. You tasted different pieces of fruit to see what you thought of them. We're going to do some experiments today, and to do our experiments we're going to need a flat tray or a box lid. I'm actually lucky, I've got quite a big whiteboard here, and we're going to pop it up there like that, and we're going to see how fast things slide down. Now go into your discovery box and get out your ruler and your pencil, and we're going to see which one gets to the bottom of the slide first. So have a feel of your ruler. Does it feel smooth? Do you think it will slide quickly? Have a feel of your pencil. Do you think that'll slide quickly? And have a guess which one will slide the quickest. Which one will get to the bottom first? Now I'm going to do a few tests here. So we're going to pop them both up here. We might have the pencil there and the ruler there, so we have the ends about the same. And then the ruler got there first, but did you see that I let the ruler go before I let the pencil go? I'll do it again. I've let the ruler go and then let the pencil go. So that's not a fair test because the ruler got a head start. This time we're going to pop the ruler there and the pencil there. Is that a fair test? If I let them go at the same time, the ruler got there first, but did you see? The ruler is further down here. The pencil is further up there. So again, it's not a fair test, is it? So what we have to do is put the ruler there, put the pencil here so that they start, the bottom of them is at the same spot, and then let them go at the same time, so it's a fair test. Let's do that. And they actually got down there at about the same time, didn't they? Let's have another look. Starting at about the same spot, letting them go at the same time, and down they go. So you get your pencil and your ruler, and before you let them go, and make sure it's fair, so they're both starting from the same spot and you let them go at the same time. But before you let them go, you have a guess which one you think will get to the bottom first. And see whether you're right, because that's what we do when we experiment. We guess what's going to happen, and then we test by letting them go. We test which one is actually going to get to the bottom first. When you've done a few of those, we can have a dig through the discovery box and find some other things. Maybe I've got a spoon. Maybe I might like to see which is going to get to the bottom first, the spoon or the pencil. We could even, I've still got my balance beam. Do you remember last week we made a balance beam? We could even weigh them to see which is heaviest, to see whether that makes a difference. So the spoon is quite a bit heavier than the pencil. I wonder if that will make it faster or slower. Let's pop our balance beam away. I'm going to guess that perhaps the spoon will get to the bottom first. So we've got to make sure that they're at the same starting point. Let them go at the same time. And the spoon did get to the bottom first. What else is in our discovery box? How about my magnet and my ruler? Let's pop our ruler on there, pop our magnet there. And what happened? Of course, the magnet stuck to the whiteboard. So that really wasn't a fair experiment, was it? You have a look through your discovery box and find some things that you can slide down your slide. And before you slide them, have a guess which one's going to get to the bottom first and see whether you're right. Okay, you can find some other things around your house also that you can slide down. I've got a peg and a ball of wool. Let's weigh them first. There's our ball of wool. There's our peg. Our ball of wool is the heaviest. Now when the spoon was the heaviest, that was the first to the bottom. I wonder if that will mean the ball of wool gets to the bottom first. Let's have a look. Pop them up here. Let them go at the same time. It did, because the peg's not very good at sliding at all, is it? There it goes, it's just got to the bottom. Okay, you have a look around your house, find some other things, see how fast they slide to the bottom. And we can also get our toy cars. And we can guess which one's going to get to the bottom first. I'm guessing perhaps the white one. So let's pop our toy cars up here and see if the white one gets there first. Bit hard to tell, I think they got there at the same time. How about, I've got a yellow one as well, the yellow one and the grey one. I think the yellow one will get there first. Let them go. I think my cars are all evenly matched. You see if you've got some wheeled toys that you can get out and see which ones are the fastest to get to the bottom of the ramp. There's some fun experiments that we can do. Another test we can do is with our magnet out of our discovery box. And we can simply go around the house and see what it will stick to. If you would like, you can record your results with your paper and your pencil out of your discovery box. So we might get our magnet, and do you think it will stick to the ruler? Let's find out. Doesn't stick to the ruler. So I'm going to have 2 columns on my sheet, and one side is for things that the magnet doesn't stick to, and I'm going to draw my ruler in there. Do you think the magnet will stick to my spoon? Let's have a look. It does stick to the spoon. So in the other column, things that the magnet does stick to, I'm going to draw my spoon. You take your magnet and go around the house and see what it will stick to, and you can record your results in your book. Our next experiment is called musical coat hangers. Now, if your coat hanger, like mine, is still a balance beam from last week, because I like my balance beam, so I haven't taken it apart, you might have to get another coat hanger, or we'll have to pull the balance beam apart, because we need a coat hanger for this one. We also need our string, so find your string. And one thing that I don't think is in your discovery box is a pair of scissors. You will need a pair of scissors so we can cut the string. Now we need to make 2 lengths of string that are the same length, so I'll cut 1 piece of string like that, and then I will measure another piece of string against that piece of string and cut it at the same spot, so they are the same length, or approximately the same length. And we get our 2 pieces of string and we tie each of them to one side of the bottom of our coat hanger. I'll just tie this on and then I'll show you what I'm doing. Now, if you're cutting with a pair of scissors, make sure you get your lab assistant, your big person, to help you. Now, there we go. So we've got one piece of string tied like that, and the other piece of string on the other side. And I'll just tie that on so that it stays on. And this is our musical coat hanger. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get a spoon out of our discovery box or out of the kitchen drawer if you haven't got one in your discovery box, and we're going to tap the coat hanger with the spoon. But we're going to have it held up like this. And I'm going to ask my lab assistant, Shani, to come around and tap the bottom of my coat hanger. So you can hear that noise. Thank you very much, lab assistant. Then what I want you to do, your lab assistant I'm sure will be able to come closer to you than Shani and I can. Then roll it around your fingers and pop your fingers into your ears. Now you will have to lean forward so that your lab assistant can tap your coat hanger, and you will hear a very different sound when you have your fingers in your ears. Now the reason for this is that sound, just sit back in my chair, sound travels in waves, and it travels better through something solid. So, like the string, it has to travel through the string and up to your ears, and it sounds a lot clearer when it gets to travel through the string than it did when we were holding the coat hanger out like that and we didn't have the string in our ears. It's like earthquakes. People can record earthquakes from a long way away because the earthquake is under the ground and the sound travels through the solid earth so that they can record it on special earthquake recording instruments a long way away from where the earthquake actually happened. So give that a try. Have a listen to your musical coat hanger without the string in your ears, and then have a listen with the string in your ears and see what the difference is. Our next experiment is called sink or float, and we're going to have a look at what sort of shapes will sink and what sort of shapes will float. Now, we need some blue tack or some plasticine for this one. You can use your cups out of your discovery box if you want and put some water in them to float or sink your shapes in, or you can get a larger bowl if you've got one. Either or, doesn't really matter. So I'm going to get a bowl. I've got some water here, and I have also got some paper towel and a tea towel. You might even want a big towel just in case of spillages. So we're going to pop some water into our bowl, and then I'm going to get pop that over there. I'm going to get my blue tack. I'm going to take off a strip of blue tack, and I'm going to roll it into a ball. Now, do you think that the ball of blue tack will sink or float? I think, let's have a look, it might. It's not very heavy, but I sort of think it might sink. What do you think? Sort of ballish. Okay, there's our ball of blue tack. Let's pop it in and see what happens. Sunk straight down to the bottom. So that's not a very good floating shape. That's a sinking shape. let's take another strip of blue tack or plasticine, whatever you've got. This time, I'm going to leave it as a strip. Do you think that will sink or that will float? It's quite sort of long. It's a bit sort of like a raft shape, isn't it? Maybe it will float. Let's have a look. No, it sunk to the bottom as well. So with my last piece of blue tack, I'm going to think about the shapes that they make boats into. What sort of shape is a boat? I'll just soften my blue tack a bit, and then I'm going to squish it out so that it's sort of a big dish shape, and see if I can make something that will actually float. And there's all sorts of different shapes you can make to experiment to see what will sink and what will float. But make sure before you put it into the water, you have a guess at whether it will sink or float, and then see whether you're right. That way we're experimenting, we're testing to see whether what we think will happen is actually what happens. Okay. Now that's sort of boat shaped. It's still quite heavy. I don't know whether I need to push it out a bit more. There's my sort of boat shape. Let's pop it in. No, it's sunk too. So I think I need to do a bit more work on my blue tack boat. I want you to play around with your blue tack or your plasticine at home until you can make a shape that will float, and see what you have to do to make it float. I'll keep trying. Sinking. Our last experiment is called sink or salt. Now again, we will need some water, and I've got 2 cups. I've got some salt, and I've got a hard-boiled egg. And I've also got my towels here, just in case of spillage. So we're going to put some water into each cup. And I might need a little bit more water than that. And I'm going to put some salt, quite a bit of salt, into one, and stir it up to try and mix it in with the water as much as I can. That might need quite a bit of stirring. Then I'm going to take my egg, and might need to use a spoon perhaps to help slide it in, or you can just use your fingers. Your lab assistant might want to hold the cup steady, and I'm going to drop the egg into the cup and see whether it sinks or floats. One cup has plain tap water, the other cup has salty water. And then I'm going to drop it into this one and see whether it sinks or floats. Now remember, before you drop it in, you have to guess whether it's going to sink or float. And then you pop it in and see whether you were right or not. So you might want to record on your piece of paper what you discover. I'm not actually going to do it today because I'd love you to do this at home and see what happens. And you might want to try other things too. We could even use, I'll just pop my egg back there, we could even use some of our blue tack or plasticine from the experiment before. So we've got a cup with just tap water, a cup with salty water, and a hard-boiled egg. What happens when you put the egg into the cups? So you'll have sink or salt to do as your extension activity. And there's also lots of other experiments that you can do. You can find a lot of them online, and there is a website which I have shown on our website on the session 3 notes that you could go to as well with some fabulous experiments. Now for next week's session, I'm going to have to read this to make sure I don't miss anything. Next week's session, one of our experiments uses a raw and a boiled egg. So if your lab assistant could please prepare that beforehand. Don't tell the child which one is raw and which one is boiled. You might want to put a 1 and a 2 on it, and only you know the code. Other things you will need is a bowl, a cup with tap water, a spoon, some newspaper or towel. It must be going to get a bit messy again, I think. A glass half filled with water. Sounds messy already. A newspaper or a magazine picture. 2 balloons. 2 strings approximately 30 centimetres long. And there is also the disappearing pencil puzzle, which is also on our website if you want to have a look under the session 4 notes. So I'd love to see you all next week.